My name is Mark Baisch. I'm with Landmark Properties, and we're located in Rocky Point, New York. I'm a native of Shoreham. I've been around here a long time. I presently have a house in Port Jefferson, and we've been developing properties for about 25 years, primarily in Brookhaven, but also in other locales within Suffolk. I think 40 different communities within Suffolk we've done development. Over 1,000 homes and condos in the last 25 years. So we have quite a good track record, and we have quite a bit of insight into land development, specifically in Brookhaven, which has its ins and outs, as do all towns, but Brookhaven is a strange animal unto itself. We have a lot of environmental issues here in Brookhaven. We have extra added on environmental that we don't have necessarily west of us, and we have to take that into account in anything we develop here, and a lot of that has gone into my thought process. You're not going to see any slick engineers tonight. You're not going to see any slick lawyers. I don't have any. When I develop a project, it comes from me. It takes me a long time to think about a piece of land and come up with a plan for it. Usually when I do, it's a pretty good idea. Most people will sign on to it and like the idea, or they get warm and fuzzy about it after a few conversations. But it takes me a long time. I'm not someone that can take a piece of land and stick it in an engineer's hand and say, oh, here, design me this. It also takes a lot of time to decide what's the right thing for the right area. It took me a lot of time and a lot of thought with respect to the piece of property we're about to talk about, and with respect to this community, and the right way to approach this and the right way to get it done, because there's been a lot of fits and starts and nothing has really happened here. There's been development talk of that property all the way back into the 80s, as it was originally incorporated in this site and was split off sometime right around, I guess, 1990 or 91, and even covenants were filed on the property for a quite large commercial and medical office park. So I was tasked by several people, nobody here really, but several people from the outside, to see if I could come up with something that I thought made a lot of sense for Birchwood, and how would I approach Birchwood with regard to the development of the property. And that's what we're going to talk about here tonight, and we're going to talk about it in a very town hall manner. I'm not like I said, this is not going to be a highly professional presentation. This is going to be a presentation from the heart and a presentation from my head. And if you buy into it, or if you like it, or you see the merits to it, so be it. If you don't, and if a majority of you don't, that's fine too. I mean, I will try to get you to see my way, but if I don't get you to see my way, that's fine too, and I'll go on my merry way. I'm not so committed to the property that it's going to kill me in any sort of way. There's no way this property gets developed by me, Mark Baisch, unless Birchwood is a party to it and a partner with me with regard to development. I don't see any other way of me developing the property. That's not to say someone else might not come along and develop it or come up with some grand plan, but there's been too many fits and starts over here, and I think I've got a plan that makes total sense and makes the most sense with regard to Birchwood. So what I'm going to ask you to be is my partner, and I'm serious about that. I really haven't come here with a slick plan. I haven't come here with slick floor plans, slick building designs, a slick layout. Everything I've done has pretty much been done by hand. It's been done by me, and nothing is cast in concrete yet. I think other proposals have come here and they've already been cast in concrete, and I think it's upset people to think that things went so far without any input from the community. I don't believe in that. I'm in the middle of developing another project in the middle of Rocky Point, and I approached it in the same manner. I approached it by going to the community and to the civic first, and we approached the project together. I put my brain to it, came up with an incredible idea, and I was able to turn the entire community around to realize that I had a really great way of solving a real big problem for Rocky Point. I'd like to think that I could do the same here, and this is my stab at it. We want to develop the 23.5 acres that we call the Kimco property, which is the property that you all pass on your way in here daily, or you pass on your way out of here daily. It's 23.5 acres, and it pretty much goes from the southern border of the Birchwood property now all the way to the northerly border of Route 25. It's 23.5 acres, and what I'm proposing, and again, not cast in concrete, but I've been able to draw something out that makes perfect sense. I'm proposing that we ask the town to rezone the property, and that we build 100 plus or minus senior, what we call PRC, Planned Retirement Community condos. Now, when I say planned retirement community, you have to be 55, you can't have school-age children. We actually discourage children to the utmost. The units really aren't designed for children. When you see what I have in mind with regard to the unit design, you'll realize that I've really made this a true senior community. It's not a senior hybrid. It's not a go-go senior community where people have second floor ambitions and things like that. This is truly a senior community. And the reason I'm so comfortable with it is I've done it twice before. This is basically what I'm going to propose to you today is a hybrid of two communities that are within 5 and 10 miles of here that you can go, look at, taste, smell, feel, talk to the people, and get a feel for what I'm going to do here. You can see exactly what I have in mind, so there won't be any question. And again, it's much better than a pretty picture on a piece of paper. For me to do that, this has to be mutually beneficial. I have to make money, but I also feel Birchwood needs to get something substantial out of this for what I'm asking Birchwood to do to become my partner. And that was going to take a lot of negotiation. It's going to take a lot of negotiation between you and between your board, and then it's going to take negotiation between your board and I. But there's some very big synergies here with this community, and a very big reasons that I want to become part of this community, or I want my units to become part of this community, but it has to be mutually beneficial to you. You're not going to do a deal with me if you're not going to get something out of it, and I have to make sure that happens. The deal will go awry if we cannot reach a mutually beneficial situation. So I'm involving Birchwood from day one. I'm considering today day one. Yes, I had a meeting with the board. It was a very informal meeting with the board. I brought them up to speed on what my idea was. They liked it to a point, liked it, and said, we have to bring this to our people. We can't go any further with this. This has to be a community effort. I agreed with that 100%, so that's why we're here tonight. So, when I ask you to be my partner, I'm not going to ask you for any money. I'm not going to ask you for any real risk. I'm going to take all the responsibility of being the initial sponsor. I'm going to take care of the rezoning, any land use issues. I'm going to take care of all the design, all the build, and all the selling responsibilities. There's no financial exposure risk to Birchwood. This is not a project where I say, oh, by the way, you guys have to sign on notes with me and we're going to build this project together. It's not that kind of a deal. When I say you're going to become my partner, you'll understand in a little while what I'm going to ask you to be my partner on. But there's no financial exposure to Birchwood, none whatsoever. This is a standalone piece of property. It will be a standalone piece of property. At some day, I want it to become part of Birchwood, but while it's being built out and people are moving in and it's filling out, there will be entirely my responsibility. So there's no responsibility here. But you do have a responsibility to get involved with me with respect to layouts, with respect to architecture, and with respect to mutually beneficial coexistence with your community. So that's your responsibility. Eventually, Birchwood will become the sponsor once it's complete. That's the idea. We're thinking now that it will be a separate condo offering, which it would have to be, but then at some point it will come under the Birchwood umbrella as another piece of Birchwood property under the entire Birchwood properties here. I understand now, I believe you have 4 different condos here. This would be kind of the 5th. Again, I don't want to talk Birchwood business. I'm just going to touch on that. Now, what will Birchwood receive for this? What am I asking Birchwood to, what am I going to offer Birchwood to become my partner and become involved with this? First of all, I am not going to build any amenities. For me to build amenities in a senior place next to you with all the amenities you have here, and you have amenities, with all the amenities you have here that are underutilized, it would be crazy for me to replicate those amenities, spend money on those amenities when you guys have all the amenities here, and I'm asking you guys to become the sponsor eventually of the project. So there needs to be amenities payment from me to Birchwood to take into account the fact that I don't have to build amenities. By town code, I'm required to build amenities. There's square footages that I have to build. There's passive recreation I have to build. There's active recreation I have to build. There's some number that I would have to build on my property that would suffice the town of Brookhaven to qualify under the PRC code. If I join with Birchwood, I do not have to do that. The Birchwood amenities will suffice, and you should be reparated for allowing me to enjoy in those amenities. And that needs to be clear. There will be a lump sum payment for the amenities. You also will become the recipients of the monthly HOA fee. Now, that is a whole area that's up in the air. The HOA fee will be commensurate with your HOA fee, but you will be the sponsor. You will be responsible for the HOA fee, but it will be an HOA fee on 100 units that basically only has roadways and doesn't have any real amenities and has brand new units that probably won't need a dime done to them for the next 15 to 20 years. I mean, in today's world, fiberglass roofs are guaranteed indefinitely. We're talking about a completely maintenance-free exteriors. We will not have a single piece of exposed wood that needs painting or any of that sort. These are truly maintenance-free buildings. So your exposure to the HOA or your collection of HOA fees with respect to your doling out of HOA fees should be very much in your favor for a very long period of time. For probably 15 to 20 years, you're going to be really on the high side on the HOA fees, and it will be extremely beneficial to this community. We need to establish an equitable sewer situation here. It's a really crazy thing the way the sewer is here. You own the sewer plant, but you don't control the excess gallons of the sewer plant, and believe it or not, my piece of property has a covenant on it that says that if I join your sewer plant, or if I use your sewer plant, I'm only responsible for 5% of your sewer plant. It's a covenant, registered in the town. It's a legal covenant, registered with the county clerk. It's a legal covenant on this property, on that property, and it says that I can use your sewer plant and only need to pay 5% of the operation of your sewer plant. It's ridiculous. It's someone that pushed it to their side when everything was divvied up. When the developers divvied it up and resplit the piece out front, they really cut themselves a nice sweetheart deal with regard to that. As far as I'm concerned, and the way I look at it, the sewer needs to be at parity with everybody. Now, recognize that my sewage and what I'm proposing here only will account to the Suffolk County Health Department of 150 gallons a day, where most of your units here account to the Suffolk County Health Department for 300 gallons a day. However, I don't look at it that way. I look at, I got a unit, you got a unit, we divide by the number of units, and that's how much we all pay for the sewer. So I'm not going to try and play this gallonage game with anybody. I'm going to play the game that if there's 730 something units here and I got another 100 units, you add the two together, you divide it into the cost of running the sewer plant, and we all pay our fair share. That's the way I look at it. So I'll set that out up front. It's not going to be a negotiating point based on the fact that I only have half the gallonage of your units, supposedly in the eyes of the health department. So there's three major components here that are extremely beneficial to Birchwood, that if anybody else developed that property, I doubt this would come up. I doubt they're going to offer you this. I doubt they would have come up with this idea. If they would have come up with this idea, they already would have been here, they already would have done it, and that place would be built out. Why nobody came up with the idea, I don't know, but in my opinion, it's the only way to develop that property in today's world and in today's environmental world. It's the only way to get the property rezoned in today's world. Rezoning is highly political. If I don't get the support of this community towards the rezoning, I'm not going to get a rezoning. And I'm not going to push a rock up a hill at this point in my life. If we can't all decide to do this together, I'm not going to sit there and spin my wheels and try and push this thing along. I'll say sayonara and have a nice day, but at the end of the day, I think Birchwood would be missing out. And I know I'll be missing out, because I truly do want to develop the property. I'm not threatening anybody, I'm just telling you a fact of life. The political climate anywhere on Long Island, especially with the environmental overlay, is something we seriously have to take into account, and seriously why Birchwood has to be a party to this. It can't be done without Birchwood. I won't do it without Birchwood. So we touched on it briefly. I'm talking about 100 plus or minus senior condominiums, 55 years old and over, no children, no school-age children. All of these condos will be 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and they will range in living area size from 1,250 to 1,600 square feet. Now, I built all these units. I already have all the floor plans to all these units. These are basically the same units I built, and I'm going to show you a picture of the two other condominium complexes from an aerial view in a minute. But I've already done this. built them. I know the animal. I know how to sell seniors on them. I know what the seniors like about them. I've had the experience with the seniors now for 10 to 12 years. I've gotten all the feedback I could get over that period of time. I took care of these all the way through the warranty processes on both communities. So I have a very good reputation in that regard, and I think I have a real good feel of what the senior community wants in a true senior product, not a hybrid senior product. They will all be duplexes. There'll be an A unit and there'll be a B unit, or if you're left-handed, there'll be an A unit and a B unit. But there'll be 2 units per building. They will be, like I said, they will all be very similar. They will be similar in depth and relatively similar in width. Each condominium will vary in width from 25 to 30 feet. So when you put 2 together, the buildings will vary from 50 feet to 60 feet wide. They will all be ranch style, 1 floor. I'm not a big proponent of 2-floor senior. I just don't see how it works. You buy a unit when you're 65, 70, maybe you think you're going to go upstairs, but at the end of the day, I think the stairs become problematic down the road. So we're going to keep this all as a 1-story product, a range product, and not a big product. As you recognize, we're not talking about humongous units. We're talking about 1,250 to 1,650 square feet. All entry doors are on the side. It works the best. Front entry doors with everything going on in the front of these units with respect to garages and driveways become problematic. So we end up with shared entry walkways, and the left building and the right building share the walkway, and then we go off to our separate entryways and into a foyer into each unit. I have an example of a floor plan here. I'm going to let you all go home with just one example of a floor plan. I'm going to also let you go home with an example of the elevation of what the front of these units would be, as well as show you in a minute. So, but the rule is side entry, 1,250 to 1,600, all 1.5 to 2 car garages. The 1 car garage doesn't make sense, it's too tight, so the narrowest garage will be 14 feet wide, and then the 2 car garages will be 20 feet wide. So it'll actually allow for 2 cars, and the 1 car garage allows for a car, and all my garages allow for the fact that if someone has a serious issue, we can put a ramp inside the garage. I design all my units so that there's a door into the laundry area and then into the main area of the house, usually the kitchen area, and that door is aligned so that if we have to, we can put a ramp inside of a garage and we don't have exterior ramps, etc., etc., and people aren't out in rainstorms trying to get into their units on the ramp or slipping on the ice or whatever else you might do. It's all enclosed in the garage, and if you have a 1.5 car garage, you can still get your car in the garage, and if you have a 2 car garage, okay, maybe you can't use the second bay of your garage because you had to put a ramp in, but maybe you can. So it all depends. But we've thought this through. We thought this through 10 years ago, 12 years ago. We're going to carry it through to Birchwood. All the exteriors are maintenance free, completely all vinyl, fiberglass roofs, all vinyl siding, all vinyl windows. Even all our columns are vinyl. Any porch rails are vinyl. Everything exterior-wise is vinyl. We have no future maintenance, no painting, none of that. It's all vinyl. It's the way I did it 10 to 12 years ago. Worked out great. Haven't had a single callback. I think we should stick with the idea. Energy Star. This is a fantastic change here in Brookhaven. We've all gone over to Energy Star in the last 4 or 5 years. We've created extremely tight, energy-efficient packages. The cost of operating these units, it's minuscule as compared to the past. We are now, as of October 1st, going into a second phase of Energy Star, which will make the units even more efficient, but you will be shocked at how little energy it takes nowadays, both electric and gas, to operate these units. It's really unbelievable with the Energy Star code. We actually have to pull a vacuum on the units. They actually come out at the end of the construction, and we have to pull a vacuum. We put a big plug in the front door, and all the windows have to be closed. We have to pull a vacuum, and we have to measure how much air escapes from the house over a period of time. And if we don't meet that measurement, we have to figure out what the problem is. But it's so incredible what it does. It makes the units quieter. It just makes them more comfortable. You don't have wild fluctuations in heat because you're not losing heat at rapid rates anywhere in the unit. It's just a great way to live. And as a senior, it's just super great because it just stops all these crazy fluctuations in heat coming on, blasting air or whatever it might be. So Energy Star is a great thing. We all didn't like it at the beginning because it cost us money, but I have to tell you, in the long run, Energy Star has been pretty great. The other thing about me that I was going to tell you a little later, but I'll tell you now, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was the first guy in the Northeast to start building with 100% American-made materials. All my houses are sourced 100% American-made. It has caused me some fits, and things have changed over the years, or certain suppliers have gone out of business that were almost sole source suppliers of certain items in the United States, but we've been able to hold with it. So we are Long Island's, and I haven't checked lately how much the rest of New England has, but we're one of the few 100% American-made builders in the area. And we certify it. You get a certificate when your house is done. All of our suppliers bought on. Believe it or not, my suppliers love it. They love it. They love to think that they're part of it. They love what they think, what it means. So it's kind of a happy thing. We all like it. The site. So by code, the site has to remain 40% natural. The reason for that is that you're in what's called the compatible growth area of the Pine Barrens. And the compatible growth area of the Pine Barrens has very strict clearing limits. And those clearing limits are nearly impossible to break. You have to create a hardship that is so ridiculous that it just doesn't even make sense to go after the hardship. I tried it once. I realized how futile it was. I backed away from it. I don't ever want to think about trying to go to the Pine Barrens for some sort of a hardship. We cannot clear 40% of that site. It needs to remain natural. That being the case, that's the northerly, what I'm proposing is that will be the southerly portion of the property from my from the southerly end of my construction all the way down to Route 25. So approximately 10 acres of the property will remain completely natural, and that whole vista as you come down 25 will remain as it is. We will own it. It will be part of it. It will be ours unless the town asks for it, which it could happen. And if the town asks for it, let them have it. But in the overall scheme of things right now, we will own it, we'll control it, but we will never be able to build on it, and we will still have this massive buffer out to 25. So what I did was I designed a plan. Now I have the plan here. I'm not going to show everybody the plan. I just gave the plan to the board. The plan is hand drawn by me. The reason it's hand drawn by me is I don't know how to use a CAD CAM or whatever the heck that is, and B, it has to come from me for me to get warm and fuzzy about it. If it didn't come from me, there's no engineer going to convince me that this is the way to do it after I already did it, built it, used my money, and sold the units, and know all the people that bought the units, and did all this other stuff. There's no engineer I know that I could say, here's 23.5 acres designed, this is what I have in mind, I want you to design it. It had to come from me. So that's why it's hand-drawn. The board has it. It will be online. You'll all be able to see it. But I was able to come up with a grid or a site that allows us to have that allows for 4 access roadways off of Eric Drive. So if you picture coming down Eric Drive, if you were going from west to east, there would be 4 separate access roadways from Eric Drive. There will be no units fronting Eric Drive. Eric Drive will pretty much remain the way it is, but there'll be 4 24 to 26 foot wide road cuts. I say 24 to 26 because every time I turn around, the town changes their mind. 1 minute it's 24, 1 minute it's 26. It's never been 25, but it's been 24, 26, so let's go with 24, 26.
Even numbers.
I maintain 20 feet between the units. I'm kind of high on that. I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute. That's what I did in Stony Brook. That's what I did in Coram. And the 20-foot works. So I maintained 20 feet between the units. I maintained a 60-foot setback on the east and west line. So in other words, as you come up the main road here into the community, the back of my first building will be 60 feet from the property line, not from the roadway, but from the property line will be 60 more feet. So it'll be completely buffered. You really won't see the units as you come up the drive. So that's the closest, and I did the same on the other line. On the easterly line, I allowed for a 60-foot setback nearest setback to the building. So these are the parameters I used, so you get a feel. I allowed for 40-foot back-to-back setbacks. So any place where there's units that are back-to-back, because you can imagine 4 streets, you're going to have units on both sides of the street, so you're going to have units that are going to back up to each other. I maintain 40 feet. I maintain 40 feet in Stony Brook, and everybody seems to love it, thinks it's fine. If you landscape it properly, seems to work. There's other reasons it works with regard to patios and covered porches. So I stuck with my 40 feet. I said I want 40 feet between the units. I did it before, I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to tell you right now that the way I look at this project is it's a 3-phase project. You got to build this in 3 phases. You're not going to build 100 units at one time. You're going to build it phase 1, 30-something units, phase 2, 30-something units, phase 3, 30-something units. So it's probably going to take me a good 3 to 4 years to build this out. Now comes the 800-pound gorilla. What is it, 600-pound gorilla? 600-pound gorilla? 800-pound gorilla. This is the gorilla. In the code, in every code in Brookhaven, you now have to allow for affordable units. And trust me, every time you say affordable units, everybody goes, oh, here we go. Well, believe it or not, because of my prior work in Brookhaven and because I understand the code and because I understand, I think I have figured out a better monkey or a better way to skin the cat with respect to affordables. And it came out of my Rocky Point project. What I'm proposing on the affordables, and I'll tell you what. The normal way of doing it is you build affordables, you put them within the community, you got these affordable units. Now you got someone that paid me, I don't know, pick a number. Say they paid me $399,000 for unit, and I got to tell them the guy next door just paid $199 for his unit. Do you know how pissed off the people get that paid the $399? Put yourself in the situation. You just paid $399, and I just told you the guy next door is paying $199. First of all, you're probably not going to talk to the guy that paid $199 because you'll be pissed off. So automatically, we got a problem. And I've seen it. I know how it works. But there's another way of skinning the cat. The other problem with the affordables is, what do you do on resale with the affordables? Now you have to maintain, these things have to maintain affordable in perpetuity, which means forever. So that means someone has to police it, and these units can only be resold at an affordable level. There's a formula that's worked out by the county and by the state, and it has to do with HUD, and they tell you can't sell a unit for more than this, and it has to be based on the people's income. So now you're sitting there saying, oh, this is just great. 10 years down the road, we got people that don't want to sell their affordables. 5 years down the road, they can sell their affordables. Now, you got your unit for sale for $415,000, and the guy next door can only sell his for $201, and you got a 201 next to it. It doesn't work. It screws everything up. Everybody's like, how come this and what? No. There's a better way of skinning the cat. And there's a much more desirable and needed affordable market. I don't think affordable senior condominiums in a complex like Birchwood is exactly a burgeoning market, because you have a problem. What do you do about the HOA fee? If these things are supposed to be affordable and they're based on income, what are you going to do about that $400 to $500 a month in HOA fee? That's a problem. That's a problem right after that. Even if you pay $199, you still got the HOA fee staring in your face, and you can't reduce their HOA fee because then that becomes problematic. I mean, you're going to have all sorts of problems. So what I'm proposing is what I proposed in Rocky Point. In Rocky Point, I proposed to build 40 one-bedroom senior apartments right in downtown, right off of Broadway, Rocky Point, on the Thurber property, and as some of you might remember, on the Avenues property. And if you told me I was going to own the Avenues property in this lifetime, I would have told you you're crazy. But if you all remember, Avenues was a nightclub in Rocky Point, burnt down several years ago, and Thurber Lumber was in Rocky Point forever and ever and ever, and it closed down at Christmas. And I have gone into contract to buy both, and I've redeveloped it into 40 senior one-bedroom apartments. They're affordable by design. How much money do you think I can get for these things? So it doesn't, and there's not a for sale factor. They're rental. It's all rental. So what I am going to propose to the town, if we do this, is that we keep one section as we first pull in. We will keep one section to build 3 buildings that look like the rest of the buildings in my condominium area. We built 3 buildings with 4 one-bedroom apartments in them with their own parking and what have you. And guess what? The HOA owns them. You own them. You rent them, you own them, you get the rent forever and ever and ever. All you need to do is keep track of what the people's income is, verify the income. There's even outside agencies you can hire to do that. But you control your destiny with the affordable rather than the affordables killing you. Because the affordables will kill you. It's just, I don't see how senior affordables in a community like this would ever work. It's bad enough that I have 100 units, but there's another 733 units here, and it's just going to throw a whole fly in the ointment. So rather than that, let's look at potentially doing this my way with the apartments and see if we can get the town to buy off on that as being a fulfillment for the affordables. I believe it works. I believe it works, and I believe it's the best plan. But I wanted to get the affordables out of the way because I didn't want it to come up later and everybody says, oh, he never told us about the affordables. Here we go. Here we go. So we control our own destiny with the affordables. But I control my destiny. You control later on. You control your destiny. All right, everybody said you got to talk about yourself, so and I don't like talking about myself, but I'll talk about myself. I told you I was Mark Baisch. I told you I was doing this for 25 years. Landmark Properties, Rocky Point. For anyone that remembers back in the days of Dr. Rulon, I'm in Dr. Rulon's office, right next to the Joseph Edgar School, and Swim King's on the other side of me. I've been there for 20 years. I bought it from Dr. Rulon 20 years ago. I built 1,000 homes and condos, primarily here. I'm presently building, if you want to go check it out, check it on my website. I'm presently building in Manorville, Miller Place, Rocky Point, Sound Beach. I have built the 2 condominium complexes, one in Coram, one in Stony Brook. Show it to you in a second. I built 12 homes for returning veterans. I started a program about 4 or 5 years ago, built the first home for a returning veteran in Sound Beach, and it kind of started to take off. And so far, we have been involved in the building of 12 homes for returning veterans. We have 2 under construction right now in Miller Place. We just delivered one a few months ago. I don't know if you all remember Louis Bonacasa, who got roadsided right before Christmas last year. We were able to get his wife Debbie and their daughter into their home. They moved in, does anybody remember? It was D-Day, June 6th, D-Day. We called it D-Day because it was Deb Bonacasa. We got them in on D-Day. And there's another veterans family living next to them. The daughter's name is Lily, probably the cutest girl you'd ever want to see. Reminds me of that Dora Explorer character. She just started school in Rocky Point, and she now will grow up in our community. She was gone. They were gone. Every one of the veterans that I built a home for here on Long Island, and their families, veterans and their families, told me to a man, Mark, I was out of here. I was gone. North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, I don't know where. They were living in basement apartments. One would be living in the father's apartment. The other would be living in the mother's apartment. The families were split up, whatever the situation. And every one of them did 3 or 4 tours. Several of them had Purple Hearts. For us to lose them in the community just really kind of got to me, and I've been so successful. I have to tell you, my subs give back like nobody. We're not even a not-for-profit. We just do this out of the goodness of our hearts. My subs give up enormous concessions on these houses when we build a house for returning veterans. So if you ever want to have a feel-good moment, keep track of what we're doing and show up at one of our dedications of the houses, because it's really a cool thing. We probably will be, well, not probably, we will be dedicating the 11th house just before Christmas to a wonderful family in Miller Place. I don't know if you read about it, but the Cody family, I think some people here know about it, but it's just a very deserving family, and they'll be moving into their new home just right around Christmas time. I've also been very involved with the Rocky Point Historical Society. I actually was instrumental in getting them to be able to buy their historic museum house. I was able to split off a piece of property and build a house next to it, and the proceeds from that paid down the mortgage of the money I lent them to buy the house. So I'm very close with the Rocky Point Historical Society. They basically say, without you, Mark, we wouldn't have this house, we wouldn't have this museum. And this was a house that dated back to 1732, has slave quarters upstairs. The sons of the builder, of the guy that built it, joined the Revolutionary War. So imagine now your sons joined the Revolutionary War. So the amount of history that was there was so incredible that we had to preserve it, and we were able to preserve it. And Rocky Point has this jewel right down on Halleck Landing Road. It's really worth a visit. Rocky Point VFW and I are extremely close. Joe Cognatore, who's the commander there, but the entire VFW. The VFW has been my selection board for everything I've done with respect to returning veterans. They have chosen all the veterans. I don't choose them. I'm not the right guy to choose them. So Joe Cognatore has put together a group of several noted VFW people from throughout the state, including the state commander, and they choose the veterans for the returning veterans' homes. The Tesla, I'll mention Tesla real quickly. At one point I was in contract to buy the entire Tesla property in Shoreham, and lo and behold, the Tesla Society was able to do this miraculous crowdfunding, and even though I had spent a significant amount of money on environmental work, etc., I was from Shoreham, I basically said, it's yours. I handed the contract over, I handed the entire deal over to them, I handed all the environmental over, I even brought title work to them, I brought all sorts of to them. So I've been very close with those people too. And the Tesla property is just an incredible jewel for the area. I mean, I grew up with that property being there as pure as photo, and to think about the history that went on there and everything that went on there with regard to Tesla, and especially in today's world with cell phones and everything else that's going on, and to think that all this stuff was kind of just being genesised out of this little laboratory in Shoreham is kind of a really cool thing. So I've stayed very involved with respect to that. Now let me show you just a couple pictures while we're here. So this is quorum. I'm going to leave these out, by the way. I'll leave them out on the windowsills and stuff. So this is what's called the Oaks at Hawkins Path. Built it about 10 years ago. That's 37 units. Same separation, all these separations I talked about. 20 foot between buildings, 40 foot rear yards, all the same roadway system, 24 foot roadway system. All this is the same building types. These are all duplex units on a site. Now, we did have to build some amenities here, so we do have some amenities with regard to shuffleboard and a putting green and all that, but I can tell you nobody uses it. And that's what led me to believe that this is futile for me to build amenities here when Birchwood is sitting here with all these amenities that are underutilized. That's one of the major parts of my plan. But this is a typical separation. You can go see it. It's not gated. You can drive in it. Don't all go at once. But they're really great people, and resales stay super strong here. It's just off Hawkins Path, just beyond the town ball fields, just west of the town ball fields on Hawkins Path, just on the other side of 83, on the west side of 83. Super strong resales in here. They're just really, really nice units. All one story, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, open living, dining, kitchen. These are the smaller units. These started at 1,250 square feet. And these were the ones with the 1.5 car garage, and that's why I know the 1.5 car garage works so well. There is enough room in the driveways for 2 cars, but there's 1.5 car in the garage area. I should get an assistant. I'm kidding, Mike, I'm kidding. I didn't mean you, Mike. That's all right. So this is Stony Brook. Corner of Oxhead and Pembroke in Stony Brook. For anybody that ever lived over there, the H section. Does anybody know where the H section is? This is right just up the road from Glen, just west of 340 of Nichols Road, and it's right across the street from the town ball fields on the corner. So this is Oxhead. This is Pembroke Drive, and this is Oxhead Road. Oxhead Road goes right down, goes right into Nichols Road. It's the first traffic light north of 347. Same separation in here. These are the larger units. These are all 2-car garages, all duplex units. Same separate. 45 units. 45 units. 24-foot roadways. Same. The only difference here is I had to put a stinking tennis court in, but that nobody's ever used. Synthetic tennis court. I don't know what it cost me. I don't want to think about it. Nobody ever used it. I put a putting green in. I've never seen anybody on a putting green. It's another synthetic putting green. Nobody ever uses synthetic putting green. And I had to put this crazy clubhouse in because they wanted a crazy clubhouse, and all it is one big fight. And we know how clubhouses go. They wish I'd even. They actually say to me sometimes, "We wish you didn't put the clubhouse in. It would have made life a lot easier." But at the end of the day, if you take that out, if you kind of take that out. This is the same separation and the same feel of what I'm talking about on the property over here. Times 2. This is 45, I'm talking about 100. So it's basically a times 2 of this. It's not like I haven't done it before. Also, this is not gated. Don't all go at once. It's not gated. They're very proud of this community. This community is literally immaculate. It's just gorgeous the way they keep it. I'm very close to the board there. I've been very close to them for years. I don't know, I mean, I hate to say how many funerals I've gone to or people I've known there. I became very close with the people there. These are just incredible. The resale here is through the roof. Even through the recession, they never lost a dime on these units. These units maintained their value, and the seniors keep coming, and you can't even get in here. If someone passes away, they already have a list, and it never hits the paper. You never see one of these on the market. They just hold their value. It's what seniors are truly looking for. It's the right size, it's the one story, it's the 2-car garage, it's the grounds, it's the way it's maintained. They just love it. They love it. So that's why I know it will work here. And that's why when I did all my thinking and everything else I've seen in the marketplace, I went back and said, you know what? It worked twice before. I should be able to do this a third time. I really feel that it's time again for this type of product to hit the market. And that's why I'm so strong on it. Real quickly, Rocky Point. Crazy as this sounds, this is a 4-unit apartment building. This is what sold Rocky Point. I went to Rocky Point, first meeting. There's some people in the audience here that were at the meeting. Went to the first meeting, you'd think they were going to throw me out of town. And I'm from the area, and they wanted to throw me out of town. My business is in Rocky Point. Get out. You're a bum. What are you, crazy? You can't, we don't want it. Second meeting, a little better. But what happened was I woke up in the middle of the night, literally 2 in the morning. I woke up in the middle of the night. I said, you know what? I got an idea. So I came up with this idea of building 10 4-unit buildings that look like homes. And then I engaged the community and allowed them to design 4 different facades for the homes. So they actually put a facade committee together, went back to some of the charrettes they had, and they designed the fronts. I designed the floor plans, I designed the buildings, they designed the fronts that they thought would be commensurate with their community. I'm literally right in the middle of downtown Rocky Point. I'm literally there. I didn't build the community. All these front on existing streets in Rocky Point. I didn't build my inside gated community. I didn't do any of that. I provided them with a nice 3/4 of an acre common green area in the middle of Rocky Point, but these all front on existing streets in Rocky Point and allow people to walk to all the amenities of Rocky Point all the way down to 25A, including my own Suffolk County bus stop. So this project's a winner. I'll probably be in the ground with this next spring. Everybody, I got a unanimous vote. Well, not unanimous, one guy, 100, there's always one. One guy said no. But I got the civic to vote. Now, you don't get civics to vote like this. I got the civics to vote 103-1 that we support Mark in this project, and we think this would be a great way to revitalize downtown Rocky Point. So that's it. Now, guys, I want to keep this town hall. I want to keep this informal. I'm not a formal guy. You see that. I'm pretty much done with what I wanted to tell you, but I want to hear from you. So however you want to handle it, we can go person to person.